The EV transition gap, how China is winning the middle of the green shift. Flint West reporting. All right, let's get something straight before we start. This isn't a climate story, it's not a moral story, and it's definitely not a who loves the planet more story. This is an industrial timing story. And timing, as always, is where empires either compound or crack. Everyone's confused right now. Europe is easing combustion engine bans. The United States has gone from net zero to drill, baby, drill. Ford is backing away from EVs. Toyota is smirking from the corner saying, "We told you hybrids were the bridge." And meanwhile, quietly and relentlessly, global EV sales keep rising. So people ask, did the West abandon the future? Did climate policy fail? Were EVs just a hype cycle? No, that's the wrong frame. What actually happened is simpler and far more dangerous. The West didn't abandon the future, it postponed it, and China used that postponement to win the middle. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Europe and the United States finally ran the numbers and realized they could not afford a rapid green transition without first stabilizing what they already have. Not ideologically, industrially. Cars are not apps. You don't just update them, they're factories. Jobs, supplier webs, energy systems, political coalitions. Push the switch too fast and you don't get a clean future, you get deindustrialization. So Europe blinked. Not because it stopped believing in EVs, but because it realized it couldn't rebuild its auto industry while dismantling it at the same time. Postponing internal combustion engine bans wasn't cowardice. It was triage. The United States did something similar, just louder and cruder. Drill, baby, drill isn't climate denial. It's energy realism. Electric vehicles, batteries, grids, factories, they all require massive upfront energy, capital, and materials. And the United States understands something very clearly. You don't transition out of abundance. You transition using abundance. Oil isn't a belief system. It's a bridge input, which is why suddenly Venezuela is back on the board. Heavy sour crude isn't nostalgia. It's feedstock for a system that still runs the world today, while you try to build the system that runs it tomorrow. This isn't hypocrisy. It's survival math. But while the West was arguing about timelines, China was building. Not theorizing, not debating, deploying. China didn't just invest in EVs, it industrialized the transition itself. Batteries, processing, refining, rare earth separation, supply chain depth, scale economics. Today, China produces roughly 70% of the world's EVs. Chinese brands account for the majority of global EV sales. China is the largest EV exporter on Earth, and it controls the choke points that matter most, batteries and materials. This isn't market dominance, it's structural positioning. Now here's the part most people miss, and this is crucial. China isn't just exporting cars. China is exporting habits. Once a society flips to EVs at scale, gas stations fade. Internal combustion engine servicing declines. Software-defined vehicles become the norm. Charging becomes infrastructure, not novelty. Policy follows behavior, not ideology. Consumption habits lock in first. Industry follows later. That's the head start. Every year, the United States and Europe delay competitiveness. China embeds itself deeper into the daily life of the global consumer. At that point, even if the West catches up technologically, it's already lost market gravity. So what about hybrids? Hybrids are rational. They're smart. They reduce emissions without detonating legacy systems. But hybrids are not the future. They're a defensive delay strategy. They preserve tooling. They buy time. They soften political backlash. They do not win battery dominance. They do not win software ecosystems. They do not win grid integration. They do not win autonomous convergence. Bridges matter, but only if you're crossing towards something you'll actually own. And this is where the real risk shows up, because the longer the West delays, the worse the eventual adjustment becomes. Late transitions are not smooth. They're violent. When the switch finally flips, domestic suppliers are hollowed out. Jobs are gone. Trade deficits widen. Dependency is already baked in. Political backlash explodes. We've seen this movie before. Smartphones, solar panels, consumer electronics. Late adopters don't catch up. They become buyers, not builders. So no, climate goals didn't fail. Industrial reality intervened. The fight was never about the destination. Everyone agrees EVs, batteries, and electrification are the future. The fight was about who controls the transition window. And China didn't just win the end state, it won the middle. That's the EV transition gap. The West is buying time to protect the present. China is using that time to own the future. And here's the final line, the one people really don't like. Delay is a strategy until it becomes a bill. Hybrids buy time. China is compounding. And the clock doesn't care who had the better intentions. Flint West signing off.